Here for the live today. You can see I have this mic here. I was doing a video before this and I just broke my other mic. I have the aftermath of it here. So this is the typical mic that I use, and then I ended up breaking the mic doing an acceleration video. So sorry for the delay in being able to get that up. And sorry for being a little bit late here. Today, though, what we're going to be talking about is really understanding the importance of addressing technique and building your speed by improving your sprinting mechanics, right? Because I think what ends up happening a lot is if we just go about building speed in like a general way, right? We go and address, like the general arm swing, deadlift, improve your weightlifting exercises, things like that. End up getting a lot different of a result, right? The variables within the result, I think, become a lot different than when we go into it with the mentality like we're trying to really make the most amount of improvement for this particular athlete. And so a lot of what I do when it comes to training speed, especially with like individual clients, is I put a big focus on what is your mechanics. I don't like to go in and train if we're looking to make a particular adjustment within your mechanics. I don't want to do that within a group of over probably 5 because then ends up being watered down. Okay, so the more we can keep it into like a individual perspective, now we have the best opportunity for results. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over a lot of the people that are people that I've worked with in the past and what we were looking at within their mechanics and what we tried to improve within their mechanics in order to make a big improvement. So we have this athlete here. We can see and people have talked about this in the past where they want to talk about the importance of this angle here. Let me just go in and change this one. Hold on one second. I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, here we go. Boom. So, this angle ends up being a potential angle for improvement where we could kind of get a look at this and then look at this and be able to say, like, based off of, how open the hips are, how good of or how much the athlete is really optimizing their ability to run fast, right? And so what we want to be able to do is really allow the athlete to be able to open up within their hips. So, there's a few different things that end up being important when it comes to that. But we can see here, like there's a good natural knee drive, a good natural hip flexion. The issue is we're not getting the quality pull. So the main thing that we wanted to be able to do with this athlete is one, let's identify that issue, right? Let's actually bring some, vocabulary to it. Let's bring some understanding behind it. Let's get on the same page of like, what is the goal in comparison to what it is that you're currently doing, right? Because and what the really, I think getting into like 115, 120, there's different people that have said different amounts here. But first, if we can identify and get communication behind it, we are able to start to address it, right? We're able to start to be able to make improvements. And now from an athlete's perspective, you can consciously start to be able to work on it and feel it. Okay, so when you see it on the video, we start to be able to explain like, okay, instead of your hips being so limited in terms of your distance, let's get on the same page of, let's try to open up those hips a little bit, right? Let's try to get a little bit more range within, in particular with him, within that back femur, within that back hip, right? Like he needs more range of motion here. Okay, getting closer to like 120, 125 instead of being stuck at like 90 to 100 or whatever the case may be with that kind of straight down angle. Okay, so then over a period of time, as he starts to do that and as he starts to get the timing, now we can see the arms start to open up, right? And these are things like I'm not even necessarily coaching arms, right? But because the body just knows how to be able to adjust, he's able to get more a better quality arm swing, right? And over a period of time, he starts to get much better, with his front side mechanics. So he already was putting a big focus on building within his front side, but what being able to help him in creating that pull and starting opening up behind with his backside mechanics did is made it so now he's actually better at being able to get the feet up and through, and also being able to drive back into the ground, right? Utilizing the feet, utilizing the entire body when it comes to running faster. You can see as he gets going here, he's really doing a good job of being able to open up and get to good positions within his sprinting, right? Like that's a pretty nice position to be in, especially compared to where he was before. You know, when I started working with the athlete, the dad was like, you know, I know he has more potential, which a lot of people do that, right? They come in, they're like, I know he has a lot of potential, but I don't know how to be able to actually teach it and for him to actually understand it. And that's where I spend a lot of time, right? That's why I do these videos. That's why I'm always trying to push myself to be able to explain it all better, make it more simple for you to be able to understand it, and therefore be able to implement it into your actual running. Here we have, you know, a person that was obviously trained to create a lot of upward arm swing, right? See how much upward action we're getting. So we're looking here on the right. And when she first came in, this is the other side now. So she's not getting like any back action, basically all up action, and, you know, really not able to, again, I say this all the time. The first thing to do if you're a speed coach and you're looking to help somebody run faster, you want to teach them how to use their feet, right? You want to teach them how to get their foot all the way up into dorsiflexion and then immediately plant back down into a plantar flexion, and do that while coming backwards, right? Pulling back underneath the hip. And so we can see with this athlete here on the left coming through, and you know, or sorry, on the right side here, watch how her foot hits the ground, how it's going straight downward, right? And then if we look to see on the left, notice how now as her toe comes up, see how she's getting good foot and toe height there out of that, you know, foot here. And then watch how she strikes the ground, how she pulls back into the ground and uses that foot to then go down into it and strike with the foot. That's a critical concept, right? Don't go over that simply. Okay, that's something that, because even though she's doing it better here in comparison to here, she's not doing it near as good as she could have. So if you're an athlete, again, if you're an athlete, you're a coach, you're trying to help people get faster or trying to get faster yourself, you want to continue to work on that foot strike, right? As you keep getting that foot strike, continue to learn how to optimize that to make it better and better and better. Okay, here's another good example here. You know, one of the things with this athlete was just being able to recognize the crossing over options, right? Like how much he is crossing over side to side. I get my water's in the way a little bit here. So, you know, as he's running, his legs are going side to side. Okay. Again, sometimes it takes a lot more time for somebody to be able to see that and be able to fix it. Sometimes they're able to fix it really simply. You know, with him being able to get more into the range of motion in that posterior chain and understanding that it's not a push off of that back leg, but a toe off, and trying to get vertical within that back leg really made a big difference. Because notice how he bended before in that foot, like when he's toeing off, he was trying to like push off and get that foot through quickly, right? And get that heel up, in comparison to now when he's coming off the ground, it's like almost like a vertical jump, right? He's extending all the way up. So he has a lot more patience in that foot as it's coming up. So then he can get plenty of range coming back forward and through. We still want to be able to work on some of the things that he's doing within that front side as his foot's coming through. But notice that now he can get so much more front side mechanics. So he got a lot faster very quickly because he was able to it was easy for him to understand that adjustment, that change. Okay, here we're going to go into a start, right? Big thing that I would say with the start is we don't want to end up getting stuck with, we're trying to get our, you know, knees up into the air. Okay, so this action on the right, okay, is knee up in comparison to knee out. Okay, the more we could do a knee out action and pull that foot back underneath and be able to land with that heel high, okay, the better off we're going to be. I will say on the right, better job with the chin, right? This one, the chin's starting to rise up. We don't want to end up rising up with the chin too fast. But now that next foot, you can see really good job coming straight through with the knee. So then this foot goes and strikes back down. Okay, where on the right, okay, the same action on the right, not as good of flexion coming forward. So then as this foot comes up, he's not able to get near as much or near as good quality force into the ground. Takes too long for his foot to hit the ground, right? Then he's going to absorb a lot slower, right? You'll get the leg through a lot slower. Okay, so all those things end up making a big difference when it comes to being able to continue to accelerate and pick up distance, right? On the he's able to on the left definitely get better at being able to pick up more distance faster. And when we slow it down here, you can kind of see the difference in foot strike and landing. I know on the right we can't really see how much more distance he's covering, faster, but again, you can get an idea of the changes in the timing. Here on the left, this is so what we're seeing on the right is this was before this is I do want to give a shout out. I was watching this. Justin's a big reason why I have that line now at the 5-yard mark, because he was somebody that was like, hey, we want to be able to get 4 yards in 5 steps. Like the big thing I want to be able to accomplish is get to 4 yards in 5 steps, right? He's already really fast. So he was trying to get to that position. So notice how right now before he really had to reach in order to get to there. We're able to, teach him how to strike the ground. The big step that ended up making a big difference for him is this one here. We could see where he was, okay, on the right in comparison to where he is now in that strike. Okay, and how that made a huge difference at being able to then accelerate off with more of that horizontal action. On the right here, he's getting vertical really quickly, or on the left, he's able to maintain more of a horizontal action because of how he's striking. So now that acceleration becomes more like that. And then you can continue to build into your top speed for a longer period of time. What's difficult when it comes to the 40 is being able to maintain that consistent build, right? I just made a video about it's going to be pretty much impossible in a lot of ways to be able to get to, I really broke it down. It's like, it would be very difficult to be able to, from the 30 to the 40, because that'd be the best way to be able to really calculate it, get into like 24 miles an hour because of how fast that's going to be. Maybe at the end of, right when you're going to hit like that last little leg cycle, be able to get into that range. But because of how fast you kind of have to get through horizontal action into vertical action, you're really not trying to get to that speed. Instead, you're trying to get into, 22, 23 miles an hour as fast as you can, right? Because if you can get to 23 miles an hour as close to 20, 25 as possible, right? And then kind of, continue to build up, right? Because when you get to those miles an hour, it's not like you just go, and it's not like a car or something like that. I mean, it's similar to a car, but we aren't cars. We aren't, we don't have the same type of engine. We don't have the same type of acceleration principle. So, we have to generate all that force. And in order to do that, it takes momentum, right? It takes our ability to understand foot contact time and, leg cycle. And I was doing the math, and it's just like, in order to run, 24 miles an hour, let's say, I want to say, now that I'm talking about it, I don't remember the exact number that it was to run 24 miles an hour. I think it was, it was 9.3. I had it right here. So 0.93. Okay. And what we've done is we multiply that times 4, right, to be able to get an understanding of, how much time we're going to end up having, or sorry, we multiply that times 2 and then divide that by 4. So 1.8, and then we divide that by 4, essentially 1.86, and divide that by 4. And then we can get a idea of leg cycle wise what it's going to take. Okay. I wish I had like a way to be able to write on this more effectively, but I'm just using my mouse. So 186. Okay. So it's going to take me, typically it takes 4 steps to be able to go 10 yards. So if I have 186, now I have to break that into the 4 different steps, right? And so I have about, what is it? Be a little bit more than 0.45 seconds per step. Okay. But covering 2.5 yards per step is a lot of distance. So, at least 0.35 to 0.37 is going to be in that leg cycle, right? If not more. Okay. And then you're looking at about a 0.1 foot contact time if you're, in that 6'1", 6'2" range. Okay. That's a very, very difficult thing to be able to consistently output. Okay. You have to be able to build yourself up to be able to get that type of number. I mean, we see it a lot in, Noah Lyles and Fred Curley and, some of the top, Trayvon Bromell, Christian Coleman, some of these top sprinters when they're at 60 meters, 70 meters in a, 100-meter sprint, right? Because you have plenty of time to be able to build all that up. I mean, you're in a race, so you can't just take your time, but really understanding the drive phase and the acceleration and being patient makes it so then you can actually get to those types of speed, where if you just go and try to immediately pop up and get into a high vertical action, you're going to top out way faster. And that's really the point of the 40, right? Is to get into your top speed faster, because it's only 40 yards, it's only 20 steps. So you're not going to really die out, or just when you start to die out, that's going to be the end of the race. But if the more effective you could be, and I'm not saying that it's impossible to run 24 mile an hour within that time period, but being able to build yourself up to be able to get not only the range of motion, right? Because again, being able to cover, really, it's 5 yards every leg cycle, right? Your right foot, left foot, you want to be going from the 30-yard line to the 35-yard line. That's a good amount of distance, right? So you have to be able to really build up the amount of force. So you don't want to be pushing off. You want to be bounding when you're doing that. You want to be striking the ground with so much force and so much extension within the leg that as your foot's striking and as you're coming underneath those hips, you're immediately toeing right back off. You're striking the ground on the front third and then immediately getting that foot right back off. So then you can cycle through and have great front side mechanics and really get a good amount of distance there, right? It takes time to be able to get your legs to be able to cycle that quickly, right? And also to be able to develop that much force into the ground to make it so then you can cover that type of distance. Okay. You can't just go and just start doing that. Okay. And so when it comes to building speed, right, we have to be able to understand that, what are the principles? What are the things that we need to be able to see? Okay. We see on the left, good position as we're hitting the ground, right? Much better spine position. Okay. Much better height with the feet. This person took forever to be able to get him to understand how to use his heels, right? Because look at how he used to be with his heels. And I mean, he's still not great with it. He still wants to like bend with that leg, but now at least he has more knee drive, where before he wanted to just lift those heels up and just pop up. So he was going nowhere quickly, right? He's just immediately getting himself, up into a, top speed position could be a way to be able to put it. Here I was going to actually show athlete that, so he's an athlete that this is where he started, right? And, Matt's still a guy that we work with now. But so you can see the difference between understanding, and part of this ends up being, I'm huge on the visuals, right? Because for him, being able to see what he was doing in comparison to, what he should be doing, right? Just showing whoever, right? Usain Bolt, just an athlete that is able to run fast in their posture and how they're striking the ground and where they're striking the ground, and, how they're utilizing their arms and when they're lifting up their heels, and small things like that make a big difference at then being able to, learn it, understand it, and then therefore, develop it. I mean, this is a quarterback and he made significant progress in one day. That wasn't like over a week or a month or anything like that. That was within one day. This is a few years later now. He's continued to grow, continued to get, better and better with his run. Here we have, left in comparison to right, and, left, you could see trying very, very hard. And because of that, allowing that foot to come really far back behind, where on the right, much more effective. I don't think he's going 100%, to be honest with you, on the right, but we're seeing a lot more effectiveness in terms of the hand position as well as the knee drive, right? Being able to get and maintain that hamstring activation as the foot's coming through. I think a lot of people lose their ability to run fast because as their knees are coming through, they lose their ability to strike the ground effectively, right? Here we got on the right, we have a lot of knee drive, right? A lot of hip flexion, a lot of focus on, knees up, knees up, knees up, okay? It's not knees up, it's pull with those feet, okay? Notice here on the left, how he's still using that same principle that he had, but now really starting to get the pull with the feet. And when you can start to understand pulling with the feet and start implementing the pull with the feet, it makes such a big difference in the biomechanics that you have as a overall runner, right? And again, a lot of this just goes into the teaching of it, right? And not only if you're a athlete, right? Like I still play sports, I still compete, I still want to be able to be at a high level in terms of a performer. And so I can tell you this from experience, the more education you have, the more knowledge you have. There's a reason people say knowledge is power. If knowledge is power, right? If that statement is true, if you believe that knowledge is power, then the knowledge that you currently are operating under, the information that you currently have in your space, in your situation, is knowledge that is preventing performance, right? It's preventing you from improving, is preventing you from achieving your goals, right? Because if you have the correct knowledge, right, if you have the correct information, then you should be able to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, right? And so, but if you don't have the right information, if you are, going about it in a way, and action ends up being a part of that as well, right? Your knowledge of how to take action or what actions are important end up making a big difference with that. Okay, so you have to be able to understand what is the information I'm currently utilizing and how is that not helping me in my overall development. Looks like I got a question here. Aiden Booker. Let's get this on the thing. I know I can show it to everybody because I know there's some people that are on different platforms watching this. How can I improve my stride leg in my start? I have a good shin angle, but my leg cuts itself short and I don't extend all the way. And I'm extremely that what you're talking about here with the extension goes into the backside. I think I have another start here. We'll use Peyton as the person here. I don't know, we could use this one. So this athlete came all the way from Japan, actually. We have the 3-point on the right and the 4-point on the left, which is a little bit different. But actually, I'd say that she ends up having an even better start on the right because of some of the principles. So you could see that she had a good shin angle. I think a lot of things you were talking about here in before, Aiden. The thing that ends up being important when it comes to getting a better start and getting more length is not about the push off. So notice how she's really trying to push off here on the left. This ends up being a common misconception, is that this action right here. So we're looking at the left and watching her go from this knee bending to extension action, that ends up being an important part of being able to get more distance per step, right? And or another thing that people end up thinking is really important is to be able to try to get this knee up and try to really extend and really try to reach and you got to be able to cover a lot of distance and blah 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 blah. The thing is when you try to do that, it makes it so now your foot contact time is so long that it's terrible, right? That you have no true acceleration. When we see guys like like that back angle of Christophe Lemaitre, or a lot of these top sprinters, it's so much about the switch action, right? So if we see more on the right, we get in one foot into extension, the other foot into dorsiflexion, right? And then we're trying to switch as quickly as we possibly can, right? So as this foot is striking the ground, we want to already have that opposite knee coming through as quickly as possible. Okay, so that's an important thing to understand from a timing perspective. Okay, so now we're not getting stuck in trying to really reach, because we could see, as she's striking the ground here, somewhere in this general area, look at how far back her knee is, right? She has terrible timing here. Okay, you can maybe say it's that position. Okay, but either way, way too far back. We need to be striking the ground with really, those knees either even, right? Or the best that you can, this knee out in front. Okay, and when we're doing that, okay, now we want to be able to optimize how well we're able to get this knee up and through. Okay, and when we're getting this knee up and through, maintaining the hamstring activation. So that's like the best way I've been trying to describe it. So this knee comes up. Okay, we're seeing this on the right. The knee comes up. Okay, as we're keeping this knee up, we want to, the best that we can, also keep this heel up in this position. Here, we want to keep the heel low. The toe comes off, the knee comes through, low heel. Okay, but as this knee's coming up and through, now we want to be able to keep this foot up, keep this heel up. So then as we're going back into striking the ground, we have the ability to create negative force into the ground or pull into the ground. So to answer your question directly, Aiden, the way to improve your distance or your length in your start is to improve how it is that you're striking the ground, right? You got to be able to get to dorsiflexion more effectively, right? We want to be able to get more effective knee height. We want to be able to get to more effective dorsiflexion. And then from dorsiflexion, we need to be able to get the most amount of plantar flexion or pull within the foot to land with our heel as high up as possible. Like her heel could be, a little bit better. She is getting good extension within the knee, but that heel can be in a better position to then make it so as that foot strikes the ground, we're able to generate the most amount of horizontal and vertical force into the ground and be able to then react off of that very quickly. So then we can get our foot back forward and through, right? Optimizing our front side mechanics essentially is what the goal is if we're trying to get more distance per step. Okay. So if you're not getting good distance, it's not because of what you're doing in your posterior chain. It sounds like you might be, or backside mechanics. It sounds like you might be trying too hard in the backside, right? If you're talking about the shin angle, right, which ends up being, I mean, I guess that's kind of landing, but also goes into your backside and how your shin angle. So this shin angle is important right here. Okay. And you're also talking about, what was the other thing that you said? Extend all the way, right? So that is talking about this extension, I'm assuming. Okay. And it's not, I mean, you do want to be able to get extension. It's not that that extension is terrible. It's just that it's not the same as being able to get into optimal front side mechanics. So we'll see, what her shin angle is here in comparison to, and this was after about probably like, I don't know, a month or so. So it got a little better. 33 or 34 compared to 37, right? I mean, when it comes to this type of adjustment, when it comes to speed, it's all small numbers, right? It's not like you're going to go from running, having a full contact time of 0.1 to 0.08, right? If we can go from having a full contact time of 0.1 to 0.09, okay, so saving off, let's say on your right leg, like this is something that I do with people a lot where, I sit them down and, let's improve your 40. And let's say, if there's one leg they're not striking the ground with very well, and therefore they end up, not transitioning as well. Right. And so let's go into the numbers, right? We're not getting off that front leg as effectively. Okay. So that's costing an extra hundredth of a second. Well, let's say that you take 20 steps in your 40. Okay. And so, we can improve that foot contact by, 1/100th of a second on each step. That would probably be on the lower end for a lot of people, especially if you're not striking the ground well because of the stability and the things that come into play when it comes to especially like the start. You could probably even improve more than 100th. You could probably even get into, 2 or 300ths on, on some of the steps. But let's just say we can improve by 100th on each step. You take that over 10 steps, and that's, the difference between running a, it's taking a 10th of a second, right? Now, like a 4.6 to 4.5, right? Or a 4.5 to a 4.4, right? It's a 10th. Okay, so improving by 100th of a second, the smallest degree, right? One angle on your push off can make it so you end up getting an extra yard per step. You get an extra yard per step, and you do that for 10 steps. You do that for, she's a little bit more of a long distance, or she's more of a track athlete. So, she's running like the 100, 200 meter, things like that. You get an extra yard, you get an extra half yard even, right? And you do that every single step. When it comes to running the, 100 meter, you're going to end up going in and being able to maybe knock off an entire leg cycle, right? An entire leg cycle. So now, an entire step ends up taking up, 0.45 seconds, 0.35 or 0.4 seconds at least. For women, a lot of times it's like between 0.4 and 0.45. They have a little bit, faster leg cycles, and they're a little bit shorter. The foot contact time, force in the ground. There's different variables. Somewhere between 0.4, 0.45 in terms of their entire, leg cycle from when their foot hits the ground until when they cycle back through and going to hit the ground again. Okay. So 0.45, I mean, that's huge different. 100 meter, right? If you're able to make a difference like that, if you're able to cut off an entire step, that can end up being a huge improvement in your speed overall. And I see that a lot of times with athletes too, when it comes to like baseball, football, things like that, where they go and right before they're going to get to the base, or right before they're going to get to like the five on the 5 10 5, they start to take a whole bunch of extra steps. Right. And you take all these extra steps and it makes it so the time just starts to go really high really quickly. You don't have a lot of time when it comes to speed, right? Where speed is in those nuances of the angles and of the foot contact and of the body position, and these small things that can make a big difference when you're able to really improve them over a wide variety of different movement patterns and exercises, and strength capabilities and stuff like that. So great question here, Aiden. I am going to have to kind of cut this short. I'd love to be able to go more in depth. I ended up having to start this a little bit slower, and I ended up doing, a little bit more, or I had to go and fix this problem. I had to find this different mic and get it all set up and do all this stuff. So I have a few things I need to do before I have to be somewhere at 1 o'clock. But I'm going to end this here a little bit early. If you guys have any questions, please send them over to me. Again, every Wednesday, we're going to be doing these live videos, be able to give you guys a little bit more understanding of sprinting. We'll give you guys the opportunity to be able to ask me some questions, hopefully improve your overall mechanics, or be able to improve your sprinting performance in general, and just help you try to get to the next level. So I'm also going to do Friday for quarterbacks, Wednesdays for sprinting, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't seen any of this type of stuff before. And as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day. We will talk to you soon.